I've always been the kind of guy who notices the details and the things that don't quite fit. So when my best buddy Trevor introduced me to his new wife, RaSheema, I couldn't shake off the feeling that she was hiding something. Trevor, bless his heart, was head over heels in love with her, and why wouldn't he be? She was a stunning woman with a smile that could light up a room and eyes that just couldn't ignore. I'm Zayden, a 6-foot-tall, athletically built guy with a penchant for suits that are tailored to perfection. My dark hair is usually styled in a sleek back, and my piercing blue eyes miss nothing. I'm a private investigator by trade, and my job has taught me to read people like books. But with RaSheema, it's like all the pages are in code. Trevor, on the other hand, is the kind of guy who's all heart and little street smarts. He's got a boyish charm that's never failed to win people over. With his messy blonde hair and a perpetual grin, he's the type that makes friends easily. He's a great guy. But sometimes, I worry that he's too trusting for his own good. And then there's RaSheema, a fiery, red-headed beauty with a figure that could make a statue feel inadequate. Her skin is a warm caramel hue, and she's got this way of moving that's both elegant and sensual. She's got brains, too, working as a high-profile lawyer, but it's the shadows in her eyes, the way they flicker when she talks about her past, that's had me hooked from the start. I've known Trevor since we were kids, inseparable from the day we both got stuck in a tree trying to outclimb each other. He was the fearless daredevil, always ready to jump without looking, and I was the cautious one, the thinker. We balanced each other out. He pulled me out of my head. I kept him from breaking his neck. We grew up in the same neighborhood in the south side of San Diego. While Trevor lived in a house full of love and noise, I had silence. My parents, let's just say they were more about perfection than affection. So I'd spend most of my time at Trevor's getting a taste of what a family was supposed to be like. His mom made the best chocolate chip pancakes, and his dad taught us how to throw a football. As adults, not much changed, except instead of climbing trees, we tackled life's messes together. He became a firefighter, and I started a career as a private investigator. Trevor saved lives. I uncovered the truths people were too scared to face. When he met RaSheema, I was happy for him. I wanted my best friend to have the kind of love you read about in fairy tales, but something about her, it didn't sit right. I couldn't put my finger on it at first. Maybe it was the way she avoided questions about her past, or the fact that she never brought up family or old friends. It was like she appeared out of nowhere, fully formed with no strings attached to anything or anyone. It was a Friday, and Trevor had dragged me to this swanky lounge downtown to celebrate RaSheema closing some big case. The place reeked of money. Dim lighting, leather chairs, a jazz trio that sounded like they were born to play in smoky rooms like this. I sat at the bar nursing a whiskey, letting the smooth burn of it settle in my chest as I watched Trevor and RaSheema laugh at a corner table. She looked stunning, of course, wearing a deep red dress that hugged her curves in ways I was trying hard not to notice. But it wasn't just her beauty that caught my attention. It was the way she scanned the room every few minutes, like she was expecting something, or someone. Enjoying yourself, Zayden? Who? RaSheema's voice was like velvet dipped in honey, and when she leaned against the bar next to me, it took me a second to respond. Yeah, I said, taking another sip of whiskey. Trevor sure knows how to pick a place. And a wife? She teased, her lips curling into a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Trevor's a lucky guy, I said, meeting her gaze. Her eyes were sharp, like she could see right through me, but there was something else, something guarded. Her smile faltered for a fraction of a second, so quick I almost missed it. He is, she said softly, before turning to wave down the bartender. That night planted a seed of suspicion I couldn't shake. I wasn't proud of it. I mean, this was my best friend's wife we were talking about. But the way she moved, the way she deflected, the way she seemed to always be just out of reach, like smoke you couldn't hold on to, it got under my skin. The next day I did what I do best. I started digging. Nothing serious at first, just curiosity. A simple background check, though, revealed nothing unusual. No red flags, no criminal record, not even a speeding ticket. Maybe that was the problem. It was too clean, like someone had gone out of their way to make it that way. Over the next few weeks, I started noticing things. A call she took late at night in hushed tones. A text she quickly deleted when she thought no one was watching. And then there was the way she always seemed to dodge questions about her past. I told myself it was just concern for Trevor. After all, he deserved to know if something was off about the woman he married, but deep down, I knew it wasn't just that. I was drawn to her, to the mystery of her, and that scared me. The moment I crossed the line came one rainy Thursday evening. Trevor was working a 48-hour shift, and I found myself parked outside their house, watching as RaSheema walked out in a trench coat, carrying a small leather briefcase. She wasn't heading to her office downtown. I followed her, despite being in awe of it. It felt wrong, dirty even, but I couldn't stop myself. She drove to a motel on the outskirts of town, the kind of place with flickering neon signs in rooms that rented by the hour. I parked across the street, my pulse hammering in my ears. The man met her at the door, tall and broad-shouldered, wearing a dark hoodie that obscured his face. They exchanged a few words before disappearing into the room. I sat there for what felt like hours, debating whether to storm in or walk away. In the end, I stayed put, gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. When she finally came out, her face was unreadable, but there was something different about her. She looked, lighter, like a weight had been lifted. I knew then that I was in deep. Whatever RaSheema was hiding, it wasn't small, and I was determined to find out what it was, even if it meant risking everything. And Trevor? Well, he didn't have a clue. But secrets have a way of coming to light, and I was about to learn that some mysteries are better left unsolved. The next morning, I couldn't get the motel encounter out of my head. Who was that guy? A lover? A client? Something worse? My gut told me it wasn't just an innocent meeting. I couldn't bring myself to tell Trevor. How could I? Hey, buddy, your wife sneaking off to seedy motels with strange men? Yeah, that would go over well. Instead, I buried myself in the case, pouring every ounce of my focus into uncovering the truth. I started with the motel. Using a contact who owed me a favor, I got access to the surveillance footage from the night before. My heart raced as I fast-forwarded through grainy black and white images of RaSheema walking into that room with the man in the hoodie. But the camera outside the room didn't have sound, and the hood hid the man's face. Still, one detail stood out. When RaSheema left, the man didn't follow her. He stayed behind, his back to the camera. And as she drove off, he turned ever so slightly, revealing a scar running from his temple to his jawline. It wasn't much, but it was something. The next time I saw her was at Trevor's house. She answered the door, her smile as polished as ever. "Zayden," she said, tilting her head slightly. "To what do we owe the pleasure?" "Well, I was just in the neighborhood," I lied. "Thought I'd swing by and see Trevor." She stepped aside, letting me in. The house smelled like fresh coffee and vanilla, and Trevor's dog Buster wagged his tail furiously as he trotted over to greet me. "Trevor's still at work," she said, leaning casually against the kitchen counter. "But you're welcome to wait." "Thanks," I said, keeping my tone light even as my mind raced. I sat on the couch. pretending to be interested in the sports highlights on TV.